It's Kyle Stahl here with Stahl Agronomy, coming at you on a Tuesday after Labor Day. And the reason we're doing this on a Tuesday after Labor Day was last week was Farm Progress Show week, and me and a few growers actually went down and toured the show like we do every other year when it's in Boone, Iowa. It's one of those things you kind of have to do every couple of years. It's a really good show. You get a chance to kind of talk to some reps and see a bunch of different people. And I ran into some few Twitter folks, bought some TNT foam from MS Shippers. So we're going to try that out at the farm, see how that stuff works. But just some of the stuff that happened at the show this year, we usually go and there's a lot of product launches. A couple years ago when we were there, the Tri-Bind launched. 2 or 3 years before that, John Deere came out with their vertical tillage tool. We were there when Kinsey came out with their 4900 planters. This year really wasn't that big of a show as far as product launches. A lot of what was going on was talking to some of the reps about used equipment values, what people are trading in. We went through a few booths for that stuff. It's kind of consolidated too. We used to go to the Dow chemical booth, and we used to go to the DuPont chemical booth. Monsanto was usually there. This year we had Bayer and Corteva, which that's about it. You had FMC and some of the smaller players there, but a lot of this stuff is kind of getting a little bit different. And there was quite a few more of the smaller vendors, the people that had some specialty products and trying to kind of promote some of their stuff that they're doing. It was a really good show. We had a good time. We walked around. Thankfully, we went on Wednesday and not Tuesday because Tuesday got rained out about noon. Wednesday we didn't have any field demos, but we really usually don't go for those anyway. We like to look at some of the products. We kind of do some research ahead or beforehand and just talk to the reps and make our rounds kind of around the show. So the highlights for me, some of the things I kind of looked at. Originally when John Deere came out with that vertical tillage tool, I think it was in 2012, it was kind of a new thing for them. I think that was through their acquisition or they're working with Landau. They came out with a vertical tillage tool that had, I'm fairly certain it was a fixed wing one. Our actual degree of the blades was fixed. This one now, they've come out with, it looks a lot like a Kuhn-Krause accelerator, really. When you look at them, the old Deere ones had concaves in the front and a notch blade in the back, and now they're going with a dual notch design. You can adjust the disking degrees, which was kind of interesting. It basically looked a lot like a Kuhn-Krause accelerator. The main difference was the options on it were a rolling basket and a flat bar basket. So you can get 2 baskets on it, and they told us you could go with a round bar, flat bar, or flat bar and a round bar. And as far as getting seedbed prep ready to go, it might work. The reason we like the Kuhn-Krause accelerators and some of the other vertical tillage tools is that paddle wheel that kind of cleans out dirt clumps, and it cleans off the root balls from corn stalks, and it really does a good job. I don't see the Deere one doing that yet, but that's kind of something new. They're still kind of getting into that market. I think their main market's still going to be combines and everything else that they do. But it's something interesting to watch. I'd like to see it in a tillage tool demo day sometime and kind of get caught up on that. The one thing everybody stopped at the show to really look at was this Midas tractor. And some people pronounce it Mitas and some people pronounce it Midas, so we're just going to go with Midas. But they had a New Holland T4 that had these high flotation tires on it. And they were basically driving around in the 8-foot deep pond with this tractor floating on the water. It was really interesting. Does it all practical stuff for us? More than likely, no. The tires were just ginormous. It's just one of these things. We're starting to see more and more of these high flotation tires. We're starting to see some of the LSW tires, and that stuff's actually really getting a lot of play. We're kind of moving away from tracks, and guys are talking about high flotation tires now. So it's something interesting. It was something everybody paid attention to at the show, but did it really do anything in the grand scheme of things? It's up to you. The other thing we looked at quite a bit was the new 50 Series Case IH combines, and not necessarily because we want to look at the newest and greatest that they had to offer. There's some features on there that are pretty cool, but it was kind of a throwback. It was the thing everybody was taking pictures of, was this 7150 with the old Case IH paint scheme from the old axial flow combines, the originals. It was really cool, but in the grand scheme of things, is it something I'm really interested in? Not really. But yeah, that was pretty much it at the show. We walked around, talked to quite a few people. We talked to a couple different sprayer vendors, applicators. That was about it. We just kind of did our thing. There's no free hats and stuff like when I was a kid. I think I went to the one in West Lafayette in 1998 or 99, and I think I walked away with like 20 free hats when I was a kid. And this year I didn't get any free hats. You had to pay or give away your email address and spend half an hour walking through their booth just to get a free hat. So yeah, we didn't come back with grab bags full of stuff. I ended up buying a few things, but most of it was the foam, and carrying across the parking lot when it was wet like that was rather interesting. The one thing we haven't talked about on this video cast really has been tar spot. And in the last 2 weeks, this thing has really blown up in Wisconsin. We were first kind of introduced to it probably about 2 weeks ago. Damon Smith put out a thing and said, if you're seeing it, let us know. We're working on it. And that was the day I went out. I'm like, all right, well, let's go see if I can find it. And literally the first field I walked into, the first 50 feet, I found tar spot. So in our area, we haven't seen it bad yet. So basically with tar spot, there's two things that can happen. You can get just the regular tar spot fungus, which is what we've had in the Midwest the last 3 years, where it's just a little bit of tar showing up on the leaves. It really doesn't do much. There is another fungus that comes up with it. We call it the tar spot complex. When you start seeing that, you'll really see necrosis on the plant leaf, so it'll start turning brown. It moves way down the plant. There's some pictures sent to us by another pioneer agronomist out in southwest Wisconsin, kind of around the Cuba City, Darlington kind of area. And we're talking like 30-40% of the plant is covered in this stuff. So it's something really to pay attention to. It's not been a disease we've had major issues with. We haven't seen a lot of yield loss in the past. This year, it's a potential we're going to see some pretty big yield losses. There was one grower that posted on Twitter, and I can't remember who it was, that said they were seeing 240 bushel, 250 bushel corn halved in yield. So we're talking something that could be a very major player for us in the years to come. Right now, we just don't know a lot. We're still trying to figure out what it's going to mean as far as hybrids, how hybrids are going to handle it. We're still trying to figure out exactly what we're dealing with and what fungicides, or if any, we can use to get this stuff out, because we're talking a late season disease for us at this point. A lot of fungicide efficacy is going to give us about 6 to 8 weeks at the most, and applying that tassel timing, we're kind of wearing out on that at this point. So something that we're going to have to pay attention to. If you have never heard of tar spots or something that you're kind of wondering about, really do some research, figure out what this stuff looks like, walk your field, see if you got it. It's something we're going to have to pay attention to in the next coming years. It could be kind of like what we had with soybean rust. When I was in college 10 years ago, we had a soybean leaf encased in plastic from South America, and they were worrying us about soybean rust. But soybean rust was something we were really concerned about, and then 10 years later, here we are, and I've still never seen soybean rust show up in Wisconsin. So yeah, it was something we were really concerned. Tar spot's kind of the opposite, or the inverse. We were not as concerned about it. We thought it was kind of an oddity, a rarity. It was kind of cool that we had it in a few fields in northern Illinois. Now we're kind of really concerned because we're starting to see actual damaging and yield effects from it. So it's here, and we're going to figure out what we're going to do. So if you find it, or you think you found it, let us know. We really want to work with Damon Smith on this, and Damon wants plant samples. They want to confirm where it's at. They want to know what the scope and reach of it is, how the severity is, what the hybrids are handling it like. This is something we're going to have to pay attention to for years in the future. Another thing, if you guys got the newsletter this week, we talked about Wisconsin is offering a free testing for water hemp herbicide resistance. So there's something in that newsletter. I'll post the link along with this video. It's something you guys are going to want to take advantage of. It's free. I think Purdue and their marketing board came out, or like soybean marketing board came out a couple of years ago with this, and their program was free for a couple of different tests. Wisconsin sounds like it's 100% free as long as Rodrigo's posts have been correct. they're going to test for a bunch of different herbicide resistances. So water hemp, to us, the major thing that gets us concerned, we know most of our water hemp's resistant to ALS chemistries like Pursuit, some of the first rates. That stuff we know. What we don't know is PPO resistance. If we have PPO resistance, you're knocking out Flexstar and Cobra out of that. And if you combine that with glyphosate resistance, which most of it seems like when it's PPO resistant, it's glyphosate resistant, that leaves us with basically Liberty and dicamba at this point. So that's something we really need to pay attention to. Everybody's seeing water hemp sitting in their fields. The main thing is we want to make sure we get female plants, not the male plants. So water hemp is dioecious. It has both a male and female plant. The whole point of this is make sure you go and check out that link. They'll have pictures of what plants you need to get, and we can make sure we're getting the right samples to Rodrigo and those guys. The last thing I want to talk about is what's going on weather-wise. We've had just an abundance of rain, especially as you get north of I-43, right along that 94 corridor and north. We're talking guys that have had 14 inches of rain. A lot of these people have got at least 6 or 8. We're really wet coming into the late summer here, and this is concerning for a few things. You know, obviously we have guys trying to take silage off. That's going to be a problem. I've got a lot of guys that are going to be trying to get in the fields and get some things done right now. You know, we're not going to be doing alfalfa seeding. It's too late in the year, but we're getting to the point where we're going to start wanting to do wheat and some of these fall cover crops, and we're going to have some issues trying to get some of these fields done. You know, even planting, not let alone tillage. So the other thing is compaction is going to be high, especially if we can get some of this water to drain off. The problem we're running to, especially around Ixonia, is we've got so much water that every inch we get now, it just keeps piling on, and it's not draining. It's got nowhere to go. The river's full. I drove through Economowoc the other day. The Economowoc Dam that's right there off of the old 16 that runs through town. There's the dam gates were still showing some spillage. You know, it was spilling over the dam gates before. Now it doesn't even look like they're there. It's just blowing right past them. You know, the Rock River is insanely high right now. Every ditch is full. And we're talking rain for pretty much the rest of this week. So we're going to have a lot of water movement in the next 2 to 3 weeks to really get this stuff drained out. So that means when we're combining beans, we're going to be probably combining beans when ground conditions aren't exactly fit or just a little bit on the wet side. So, you know, the worst time of year for us is spring compaction. I'd say the second time of the year that's worse for us is fall compaction. We're going to be putting a lot of fall compaction in these fields. So we're going to want to start talking about limiting traffic in the field, making sure we're making some kind of path so that we're not compacting the entire field. We're not driving grain carts all over hell, just trying to get stuff done. So the other thing is going to be, we're going to want to talk about tillage. If you're planning on doing fall tillage, you know, we're going to definitely want to make sure we're setting our depth correctly and we're watching how good of a job we're going to be doing. You know, if it's too wet to be out there doing fall tillage, we're not doing ourselves any good. All we're doing is cutting a slot in the soil, and we're still going to have that same problem in spring. So it's something we're going to have to pay attention to in the next coming 3-4 weeks. You know, it could dry up and instantly just dry out. Maybe we get a September like last year where it's 90 degrees for the entire month, but we'll see. So it's just something we're going to have to start paying attention to. Stay tuned. We're going to have some few updates, and, you know, there'll be another newsletter coming out pretty soon. I'll put another one of these videos out on Friday. We'll see how much rain we get this week and kind of how this week goes. So I'll see you next time.